Hey everybody, welcome back. This is part two. So what we want to do in part two is run all of our network cable. So we're going to head down into the basement and we're going to start running cable lines down from the spots where they're going to go in the room back to our network rack. So one of the things that I want to get done tonight is just getting all of our cable pulls done. So once the cables are unterminated but run, we can pull them up through the walls and terminate them in each of the rooms, and then we can also terminate them at the rack. So as I said in part one, in case you missed it, one of the things that we are going to do is we're going to terminate all of our network ends into a patch panel. And then from the patch panel, we have freedom to run either network from our switch to each of the rooms, or if we want to send audio or video over network cables to each of the rooms. Eventually, the snake that is going to be in the wall are two DB25 snake heads. So that's going to be 16 channels of analog audio, but I think it would be cool to run analog audio over Cat5 for things like talkback mics and headphone sends and all that kind of stuff. So in order to do that, I just want to have the ability so that I can patch ports just around the house just differently. So that's the goal. So before we start digging into the studio and terminating things, I want to get all the network cable run and done just so that our internet's up and working while we're doing stuff and we can test things, or if we need to use it for anything for the install. So tonight we're just going to run cable and we're just going to label both ends. We're going to run it back to the network rack, and maybe we'll get time. Maybe we'll get time tonight to terminate stuff at the patch panel, or maybe not. We'll see how fast we can go. So here we go. All right, everybody, we are down in the basement. So this is our network rack. This is just a 6-space rack that we mounted to the wall. And this is, sorry for not documenting this, but this is something that I did a few months ago. So just some of the stuff that's in here is I've got Philips Hue lights. So we've got the controller for that. We've got just a router, some power strips, and just some hastily put together things. So the cable just comes out of there. It's coming up just like this, and it's going along the support girder right here. So the cable runs that you're seeing here are these gray network cables. These are cables that are going to the TV in the living room, and then it's also going to the TV in the bedroom. That's the sump pump kicking on right there. So the goal for tonight is we're going to follow this cable path right here, and we are going to just make this go all the way down here so that we can run it down to eventually come out right here. There's this is where the DB25 snake terminates from the first part of this video where we showed you. So one of the projects that we're gonna have to do is make that terminate to the other side of the wall. So that's where one side is going, and then on the other side they're gonna be there. So we're just gonna run our cables. I think the best thing to do is probably run them against this wall, following these lines right here. And then eventually, just so that you can see, it goes back to the rack like that. And then we will run them all the way down back there, terminate at the rack. So, one of the things that you want to do is you want to have your cables located by where they're ending up at. So because the cables are going to be terminated at the rack, I want to have my pull box right here by the rack. The other thing is you need a Sharpie, and I'm using masking tape. You can use spike tape, you can use gaff tape. Masking tape is just easy and cheap. One of my favorite things is a shirt with a pocket. Put your Sharpie in your pocket. Super style points there. One of the things you have to always remember is the reason for the masking tape is, one, it temporarily lets you put cables where you want them. The other thing is it allows you to label cables at both ends. labeling cables at both ends is about the most important thing you can possibly do. Because when you have a bunch of cable runs, you never quite know where they're going to end up, and having a little label on either end is generally a lifesaver. So the other thing is, another golden rule that I always like to have is always pull more cable than you think you need. Network cable is so hilariously cheap. Just pull more cable than you think. You'll never regret that decision. The cable that you'll throw away is negligible. Maybe at the end of a project you throw away a couple of dollars in cable, but you know the price that you pay for if you screw up is just not worth it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the cable out of the box like this, and we're going to pull it into a loop like this, because every single run that we're making has at least 2 connections. So when I pull the cable out of this box, I'm going to pull this in a loop like this. So when I pull one, I'm essentially pulling 2. So if you can see my thumb, we'll end up with 2 cables back home. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the camera down so that we can time lapse it, because it's going to be the most boring thing in the world if you watch me pull cables in real time. So what you'll see me doing is pulling the cables, running them along the floor, testing the basic lengths, and then temporarily securing them up in the ceiling. So here we go. Okay, and through the magic of editing, our first run is done. We got everything ran along this line. And this is all just very roughly installed at the moment. It's just hanging up on the girder supports. So our time lapse showed that we just made some loops and we cut them. So I've just got everything bundled up here. So this is just hanging up over the girder there. Eventually it's gonna end up in this hole, which we've showed you before, but that's our little lucky leprechaun up there. They left that in the house when I got here 8 years ago, and I just decided to keep him, even though I am in no way Irish. He's still my little good luck charm. Hopefully the Irish will shine on me. So this is just following our cable run. And again, this is very sloppy at the moment. It's going to join this existing main line that's right there. We'll call that a trunk line for all intents and purposes. And then that's going to end up and eventually terminate into the rack. So here's part 2. We're going to run the other side of the house. So that's 4 lines we just ran. That's going to be in the studio. So this is going to be, or the live room in the living room. So this is going to be perfect. All right, everybody, we've got all the cable pulled. As you can see, we got a nice mess. And we've got all of this run up here. So again, there's our existing gray lines that are up there. And there's our rack. So I've got everything pretty much roughed in. So this is just very, very loosely run. And as I said before, what I would like to do is I'm going to run everything just very neatly to the rack. And I'm gonna start by running everything to the rack and keeping it there. And I'm gonna terminate it, and then I'm gonna work out from the rack. So my goal with the project now is I'm going to work my way from the rack with some cable slack to the termination points. So at each of the termination points, we've got we've got a lot of spare cable here. So all of the we'll be throwing a lot of this away, but that's the safest thing. So you can see right here, there's a lot of bends that I'm going to have to make. So again, the black cable is the 16 channels of analog audio. So I'm going to path this up through here and then make this go around here like this. So I tried my best to leave a lot of slack because you never know what you're going to encounter when you're neatening up the run. And we don't want to get to a midpoint and then need more cable. So right now these are there are 12 runs. So there are 12 home runs back to our box. This is following this like this. We're gonna have to make this bend right here. So you can see I just have some masking tape that's up. So we'll get another time lapse going, and I will show you just running the cables through the top of the box and making a neat bundle. So I think this will probably be the most satisfying side of the video, is seeing all of this insane cable mess. Whoops. All of this insane cable mess just go away. So it will certainly make me feel a lot better to see this as a nice, neat bundle. So here we go. Here's the time lapse. Okay, everybody, everything is finally run. Everything is, at least at this point, inside the rack. So that if you can see, there's definitely a few feet in each line in cable slop in the inside of the rack. So I think anybody that's a professional installer will definitely see my lack of style points there, but that's okay. I would much rather have extra cables. So just to follow the path here, the cables are coming out of the rack, and then they come up here, and then they just follow this main girder down. So I've just got everything secured with just a little bit of masking tape. I'm eventually going to come in tomorrow and secure this with proper wire ties and holders. Just wanted to make sure. I was more worried about the having enough cable and making sure that I didn't need to splice anything. So we're just going to trace this cable line down here. So this is our main trunk line here. This is all 12. This is all 12 channels of network here. I didn't realize that the box of Cat 6 cable that I grabbed from my shop was red. So some of this is gray and some of this is red. So that's okay. Again, I don't think anybody's going to see it. It's totally fine. This is all cable left over from other jobs. So again, just masking tape. So this orange cable, or the red cable that's right here, is going to go into the orange room. That's going to be another 2 channels in there. There are 4 lines that are going in the living room, which are going to be ending up next to the analog snake header right there. And then the other 4 lines are right here. So that's going to trace these guys And then they come around just like this. And they come around like this here. So there's the other half of our DB25 snake that needs terminated also. So they go around. And again, this stuff is just very loosely run. It comes across here, and then it ends up in a nice big mess right there on a sewer pipe. So I actually got really lucky on most of this. I don't have to punch through the floor. If you notice, let me see if I can get the camera up in here. There is a white Cat 5 run that's on this joist board already, and then there's a little black coax cable. See if I can get around here so you can see. This is going into the room already. Oh shoot, sorry, you guys can't see. That's going into the room already. So that's actually terminated on RJ11 for phone, but they ran it over Cat 5, but I'm not going to use their run. So I'm just going to pull that out, and that's going to go right up at the top, or I'm going to just take the jack plate out that's in there and just put a quad of RJ45s in there. And then there's the snake head right there. So I actually don't have to punch through the floor there, which is nice. All right, everybody, that's a wrap on day 2. So tomorrow we're going to start to terminate all those cables at our patch bay, and we're going to start to neaten up this rack, which very desperately needs it. I'm also going to try to set up our switch and get everything patched in, and that should probably take us to the end of the basement, and then after that we'll start making all the jacks in the walls. Thanks for stopping by.